Hello everyone, my name is Alex Mazaris and I'm here today to tell you about the final updates to our StockAlerts app and to just fill you in on all of the stuff we've been doing throughout the semester from prototype to final product. Alright, so the first thing I'd like to talk about is our group's original project goals, and the main one was just to create an alerts tool for investors that doesn't really limit them the way that other brokerages do. And what I mean by that is that like brokerages like Robinhood, they'll give you alert systems, but they'll only give you a few options to choose from. I think Robinhood only has 3 options, just 2% change and then a 52-week high. But our app is different because we're trying to put the power in the hands of the user by letting them create any number of custom alerts wherein they can change the exact percent value however they want, whether it be like 1% or 20%. As opposed to Robinhood, which only has like 2 options, I think are like 5% and 10% or something. But our app will allow you to do any percentage you want in the entire world. And furthermore, our app provides a really streamlined way of doing this because I've noticed with my own brokerage apps that sometimes when they send you the alerts, they're from earlier in the day or they're a little like lagged behind the actual market. And so when I go in to check that change in the price, it's not the same as it was when it said the alert on my phone. However, when we were testing this app, we noticed that the text messages are almost instant and they'll get there way faster, we assume, than the regular brokerage apps, just because it's instant SMS notification. And finally, we just want our application to be used purely for just the planning of purchases on the market. It's not for like gambling or anything like that, and it doesn't buy or sell any stocks for you. It's more of just like an informative app that will allow you to plan out your purchases in advance and really think through your buying opportunities. Alright, so for this part of the presentation, I just want to go over the differences between our prototype version and our final version. So in our original prototype, we thought it'd be a good idea to use just a simple dollar value as the indicator for the alert itself. But we realized this could get kind of complicated because the user could then enter like $10,000 and that price point would probably never get hit, so then they might be upset. And so we realized that an easier way to do this might be just to use a percentage change, so that's what we did for our final version. So now the way it works is that I left a little example down here. If they were to choose Microsoft, our app is going to grab the current market value of Microsoft and then add in the user input for the percentage change, and that's how they'll base the alerts off of now. And another thing we added was that at first we were going to notify via email and text, but after user testing, it seemed like a majority of the users really gravitated towards the text messages. They said it was a lot quicker and easier to use, so we just got rid of the email part and decided to dedicate our skills to just the text messaging system. And another thing we added was we added a full side panel that just contains general live market updates, which is nice to have when you're already looking at stocks because then you can see how the general market itself is performing anyways, and it can help guide your decision a little more. And the final thing we added is that we just have a user stock database now of all of their stocks, alerts, and alert prices, and that'll all be stored in a database as part of their profile. And now I'd just like to go over the general stock alert product features. So basic layout of the website would be we have the registration and login forms, and we got the user info and stock information database. And we also have a side panel with the live market updates as I described earlier. We also have the fully customizable alerts section, and that's where you can enter in any percentage change for whatever stock you're looking at. And we also have the capability to send alerts via text messages. As mentioned earlier, we don't do the email anymore, it's just text now. We also just have a basic contact us section for any help the user might need, and a patch notes section so that they can stay updated on any new updates we provide to the app. Alright, so for this portion of the presentation, I just want to go through the details of the implementation that we used. So the total languages we used were HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, PHP, AlphaVantage, and Twilio Messaging Service API. And I'll go into the last two because they're less known, I would say. So the Twilio API just gives our application the ability to send messages from the app to the user, which is like one of the main functionalities for our application. And then the other API is also very essential, the Alpha Vantage API. It just allows us to grab the real-time market data so that we can use that to send the alerts to our users. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about is just the general user benefits from using our app, StockAlerts. So users can benefit greatly from this if they're already into the market or if they're just learning how to use the market. Because this application is supposed to be just a tool that'll help guide investing decisions. It's just supposed to be able to allow the user to be able to think out and plan their investments in advance rather than just getting on the app and trying their luck and seeing what happens. Now they can actually set a goal for themselves and stick to their plan of investing from the beginning while using our app as a tool to help them along the way. And another thing is the app also has that sidebar with current market updates, which is also a very valuable thing to have in a stock app because that can also sway your opinion on whether you want to buy a stock soon or not. Because if you see that the market's doing bad, you might want to place a alert for like a lower price and potentially get a better deal than you could have before. And another thing I'd just like to clarify as well, aside from the user benefits, is that our app definitely does not buy or sell anything. It is mainly just used to be as an investment tool. It's not supposed to be anything else. It just is there for informative purposes, and it's supposed to help guide users in making smarter decisions on their investments by just allowing them to plan in advance instead of just on the fly investing.
Hello everyone, this is a presentation on our website called StockAlerts, and this is our homepage along with a little blurb right here. In the top right, we have a widget that presents stock information. In the bottom right, we also have another widget that represents stock information. So when we click login, it takes us to our login page, and as you can see, it stays persistent. We go to our register page, we can see that we can register here as a new user. Dashboard is kind of like our main website page, but since we're not logged in, it redirects us back to the login page. Our contact us page, where if someone has an issue, they can email us, send a message, whatever they want. So for the sake of this presentation, we're going to make kind of like a burner email to see how it works. We have kind of some validation in order to prevent some like unfacilitated logins or anything in the request. So here's our kind of like our main page. You have the user information, email, test 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, phone number. We have a logout button. We have the table that represents the database of stocks and what people set to the percent change. Here's the insert stock and also delete. So for example, we'll say we'll insert Google and 1. And for the sake of validation, we cannot put anything more than 4 letters because as far as we know, there's no symbol with more than 4 letters. So for example, we can also delete the stock. So we would do Google 1. That will delete it. All right, to test out the messaging portion of our website, we can do Google 0.01 because it's also very, very easy for stocks to go up such small percentages. And while we're waiting for the phone to, the bot to message us, we can test out the logout button and redirects us back here. We can also log back in. Takes us back here. And that's pretty much it. And to show off the aspect of this is, let me see. I don't know if you can see this, but see backwards, this is check Google stock. And that's pretty much the sum of our project for our website. As for the presentation, so there are a couple problems we ran into while we were making this. Is that we were mainly did most of our work on the UML website, the UML servers, but we ran into a lot of issues with kind of the PHP and the documentation of the servers, since they're not all up to date onto the current PHP. So they're on 5.0, and trying to find documentation for 5.0 is kind of rough because I think they're on 8 point something, but luckily we were able to find them. Another issue was we were trying to host the Python scripts on the CS servers, but for some reason you can't import Python scripts onto, or import Python modules onto the CS server. So that was also a big issue. But we found out that we could just host it on somewhere else and access the database on that website. So we use Python anywhere. So we needed a server that could constantly run a script that was not local, because we did not want to keep our computers running all day. Also, another issue with kind of standard messaging is that not all service providers allow people to send messages through bots for good reason. Otherwise, you just have people spamming you. So we had to use an API, which is what we use, Twilio, and that allows us to message most service providers. So another issue was the stock API we used also did not let us access their API constantly. So we had to limit how many users could be on it. And it also cost a lot of money to constantly be sending people messages about their stocks. So we just ended up, limiting the amount of users. As for future opportunities and regrets, although we did what we wanted to do with this project, we created a stock website that saves and sends people messages. We kind of wish we had more time to pursue and make something more kind of crazy. Although we may be done with this class and this project is done, we can always work more on this because we think this is a really cool idea. Knowing what we know now, we can say that this was definitely a very kind of good and positive learning experience for all of us in terms of what we learned, like PHP and SQL and databases in general.